Welcome back. You're watching our continuing coverage here from Davos 2023. I'm Shireen Bhan and I'm joined now by Infosys' Salil Parekh. Salil, many thanks for joining us here on CNBC-TV18. You know, Indian tech closed the last quarter on a strong footing, better than what the street was expecting. But overnight, the headline here has been about the layoffs, Microsoft laying off people. Is there any indication that you're getting that this is now going to start to impact Indian tech as well? Are we on the cusp of starting to see layoffs, for instance, as far as Indian tech is concerned?
So thanks, Shireen, for having me here. Wonderful to be back here with you. For Infosys, as you saw last quarter, we had good growth. We, in fact, increased our guidance. We're seeing two drivers for growth. One is the continuing work on digital and cloud, and I'll come to that. The second is much more on cost, efficiency, and automation. So we're seeing a real thrust on that as well. We believe we are well positioned for that. So from our perspective, we think the growth will continue. On the digital and cloud, there are some industries where we see some impact. For example, in financial services, in mortgages or investment banking, a little bit in retail, somewhere in the high-tech sector and so on. But for our own business and for both of these drivers, we see some good traction going ahead.
So you don't anticipate that we are going to be faced with the possibility of laying people off as far as India is concerned in the tech space?
For India, I don't know, but for Infosys, we are looking in good shape right now to drive this growth. The cost drivers, the automation, the efficiency, we see more and more traction to it. So we believe that that is going to give us good traction as we look at the pipeline.
You know, of course, as I said, commentary was very strong and positive at the end of the quarter. What are you hearing from CEOs here? The mood seems to be better than people were expecting and anticipating. But do you believe that that's just the Davos sort of consensus, or is that for real?
Well, you're absolutely right, Shireen. I think I've had several meetings here over the past few days, and the sense I get is, in general, people feel positive. They feel positive, especially given that they think the worst of the inflation in that sense is behind them. This is more the US or the European client executives we met. And then they see that over time, potentially some of the demand will come back. Underlying that, the view is the consumer sentiment is still positive in many parts of the world. So overall, as I reflect back, there seems to be positivity from the sessions here.
Well, that's good to hear, but let's see how that plays out. You know, there have always been questions about the Davos consensus, but let me get you to comment on what you're seeing as far as the deal pipeline is concerned. Very strong for you. Is there any expectation of any kind of moderation in any specific areas or any specific geographies at this point in time?
So there, as you mentioned, the deal pipeline is still strong, and in fact, our large deals in the last quarter was 3.3 billion. We still have a very good pipeline for that. In fact, it's bigger than what it was 12 months ago. So there we feel good. Again, more and more coming into cost and automation, and some in digital transformation. The areas where we see some of the focus not so much on digital is the ones I mentioned: financial services, banking or mortgages and so on. In geography, the economic talk is more of a concern in Europe. However, we had much stronger growth in Europe last quarter. We have had a good foundation in the last 18 months. We think that will continue, but that's the commentary here more in some of the European countries.
You know, when we last met here in May, Salil, you had talked about how you want to bet big on cloud, and inorganic opportunities was something that you were scouting for as well. Since then, I think you did one deal in July. What's the appetite now as far as acquisitions are concerned, and specifically to do with both these areas that you're betting big on, which is digital as well as cloud?
So there, in fact, our view is we are even more ready than we were in May to look at something in terms of acquisitions. As you've seen, the valuations are much more reasonable now. Both areas, on digital and, of course, on cost and automation, there are opportunities, but we don't know how it will play out in terms of the timeline. But we are actively looking.
Anything that is imminent at this point in time, or?
So there, as always, difficult to say anything about it, but there are discussions, but nothing we can talk about.
But this is definitely a better time to go shopping, you think?
Yeah, this is definitely, for us, a better time to look. I think there's more realism in what the expectations are. The view is more going to be how can we look at integration and cultural fit.
In terms of capabilities, Salil, where do you believe you need to maybe beef up capabilities at this point in time? And what are you also seeing in conversations, especially now with AI and the use of AI through ChatGPT becoming sort of real and up close, perhaps for the very first time?
So
at least as far as a regular consumer is concerned.
No, absolutely. I think generative AI, as this sort of category is called, is moving at rapid pace. So the advances are very positive. We've been fortunate to be associated with it for some years. We've been using generative AI in our automation quite a bit. We see productivity gains between 5% and 20% from some of the technologies we've used with client work today. So we see a good potential for it.
Is this going to be something that you intend to double down on?
We've been quite focused on it. We will continue to do more with it. We need to make sure, so there are things, for example, which also help in making programming more productive. So for example, things like Copilot and all. So we are working with a set of these tools. We've been quite intense with it for about 2 or 3 years already in really trying that out. And now more and more is coming to good.
You were with Satya in Mumbai, and I was watching the two of you speak about what the year ahead looks like, or what the next 5 years looks like as far as tech is concerned. And while there will be short-term hiccups, and I think that was something that Satya acknowledged as well, he said that the secular run for tech and digital transformation continues. So from a 5-year perspective, where do you believe Infosys is poised today? A lot of the work that you wanted to get done has now been done already. What is the roadmap for the future, not just the quarter, look like from here on?
You're absolutely right. I think the 5-year or the longer term outlook for tech is extremely positive. The world around is moving to digital, and we are literally in the early stages. We don't think more than 20% of that work is actually done if you look at the global enterprises. Once we get down to it, our capability, so you know about our Cobalt capability, but we have many such capabilities that are helping clients drive that, and our partnerships with large cloud players. So we believe there's huge traction and huge optimism for the next 5 years.
Okay. I also want to understand from you where you are in the journey of trying to get people back to work, because everyone has experimented with hybrid, will continue to experiment with some kind of hybrid, but the message seems loud and clear, at least conversations that I've had with tech CEOs, that you need to get people back. What's going on that front?
So for us, we've kept a view which has been extremely focused on employees. We've had a very flexible approach, and it's worked really well. Every week we've been seeing more and more people back on campuses in India and in offices around the world, and we will continue with that. With that, we are seeing, I was at one of our food courts 3 or 4 weeks ago, just before the December break, and the sentiment I heard from our employees was they want to come back because they want to connect with the teams. They also want the flexibility, and so we are making sure that we do everything that supports them.
So let me end by asking you, Salil, what would you identify, in addition to everything that we've already spoken of, as the growth drivers, the next growth enablers as far as the Infosys story is concerned?
So for Infosys, yes, we've talked a lot about cloud, but it's really about doing what we've done with our clients, which is remaining relevant. So things will keep changing, and one Infosys, which is all of our teams working really jointly for what clients want. And that's, to me, the big change. If we can keep focused on that, ensure we don't become complacent, we have a good runway ahead.
And the one Infosys map, are you done with putting that together, or is there more work needed there?
Look, I think we've got a nice foundation for it, but there's always more work, because there's always things we can do better for the client. More services, making sure we're thinking of clients first. So we will continue on that, but the foundation is in good place.
How much of that is also going to involve nearshoring?
We've always had, in the last several years, a big approach to recruit in markets all around the world. Last financial year, we did about 80,000 college grads, with 75,000 in India, but 5,000 all around the world. We are expanding in many geographies. So, of course, in the US, but in Germany, in the UK, here in Switzerland, in Canada, and Australia. So that continues quite well.
Salil, always a pleasure. Thanks very much for joining us here in Davos on CNBC-TV18. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Srinivas.
Well, we are going to take a break, but the conversations continue here in Davos. Don't go anywhere. We're back in a minute with a lot more.
Co-presented by Bank of